Our free and equal segment tonight, love this one. Bret Stephens from the New York Times, the conservative op-ed writer on staff there, he penned an editorial after the Las Vegas attack calling for the repeal of our Second Amendment right to bear arms. He wants the government to ban guns. In his article, which was intended as clickbait and no serious thinker took him seriously, Stephens rationalized his irrational point with a number of faulty premises. Our next guest actually did the research and proved Stephens wrong, and he's here with us now to tell the truth. With me now, President of Just Facts, James Agresti. James, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Liz, thanks for having me back on.
All right, so there are actually two writers, I should say, from the New York Times, Bret Stephens and Michael Shermer, who both wrote articles in favor of gun control, opposing our Second Amendment right to bear arms. They used several different studies and statistics to back up their narrative here, and if their numbers were accurate, then it would be shocking. It would be horrible if they were true, but you said you did the research, you looked into these particular studies, and they're not true. So I want to go through these 4 points made in these articles and have you tell us the truth about them. Number one is from Bret Stephens. He says more guns mean more murder. Is that true?
Well, this is something I would classify as a fake fact. We're all familiar with fake news, but there's a subset of that where people are not just biasing something, but actually reporting something that's totally false. And this statistic is so misleading. And coming from Stephens, who has a master's degree from the London School of Economics and is a Pulitzer Prize winner, it's grotesquely misleading. But why is it misleading? Well, he's basically misrepresenting association with causation. He's citing a study that explicitly states it does not prove whether or not guns make you cause murder 3 times. Yet he cites it and misrepresents it as if it does. Secondly, the study itself ignores the vast majority of usage that is a benefit from guns. Primarily, the primary benefit of guns is it prevents criminals from attacking law-abiding citizens. And in fact, a study was done of felons in 11 state prisons, and 40% of them said they decided not to commit a crime because they thought or knew that the victim was armed. So these studies they're citing, they're just citing gun deaths. They're not citing all deaths. And when you do that, you misrepresent, you leave out instances like, say, for instance, where a woman uses a gun to stop somebody from strangling her. The study doesn't account for that. So to cite this study as proof that more guns causes more murder is absolutely absurd.
Right, because it doesn't take into account something critically important, and that's deterrence. It doesn't have to mean that someone is injured or someone is killed with a firearm in order for a firearm to have done its job in self-defense. That's very, very interesting. All right, the second one here, the second false claim, Stephens claims more guns mean less safety in our neighborhoods. What is the statistical truth on that one?
Well, this is a case where he's comparing apples and oranges. He's comparing the amount of criminals that are shot by law-abiding citizens with guns with the amount of accidental deaths from guns. And as you just said, a gun need not be fired to have a deterrent effect. And in fact, the National Academies of Sciences did a comprehensive review of gun control studies, and they made that exact point. You don't have to harm the criminal to receive a benefit from the gun. And an article in a peer-reviewed journal said the same thing. And they also said, killing the criminal is not a benefit to the law-abiding citizen. In fact, it's a nightmare to be suffered for years to come. So when he says, he compares those two figures, he's comparing things that are meaningless in the context that he's presenting it, that more guns means less safety. It doesn't mean that at all.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, context is everything here, and he's completely leaving it out. All right, let's go over to the other article, this one by Michael Shermer. His claim is that a gun is 22 times more likely to be used in a criminal assault, an accidental death or injury, a suicide attempt, or a homicide than it is to be used for self-defense. Is that true?
This is so ridiculous. To call it sophomoric would be an insult to college sophomores and high school sophomores, because anybody should know this is not true from looking at the source he cited. The study does not measure self-defense with a gun. Again, it measures criminals shot or killed with a gun, which is a small subset of self-defense gun uses. So this is right there in the abstract of the study. Yet Shermer, who teaches a course at a college called Critical Thinking 101, How to Think Like a Scientist, grossly misrepresents this study. It's really shameful. And not only that, not just on his part, but the New York Times editorial board, which says the facts in our editorials have to be substantiated, they have to be documented. You can't say a battle took place on a certain date when it didn't. And that's exactly what these people are doing and what the Times is propagating out to the public.
Right, and it's doubly ironic if he teaches a class called critical thinking and he can't even apply that to his own work. All right, this is the last of the 4 false claims here. This is from Shermer as well. He said gun-owning households were 41% more likely to experience a homicide and 244% more likely to experience a suicide. Is that true?
Again, this is a case of misrepresenting association with causation. This is something, again, that is taught in high school statistics. The Common Core standards require people to distinguish between association and causation. They're not the same thing. And that's what this study is. It's an associative study. And the study explicitly states it doesn't control for certain variables. It's not to be taken the way Shermer's presenting it. So it's just a whole bunch of garbage that is being spread to people. And what's really disturbing about that, and what really gets me upset, is people are going to read this and make decisions based upon it. Maybe they would decide to get a gun and they say, I'm not going to get one now. And maybe that gun would save their life or someone else's life down the road. Or maybe they're going to vote for a candidate based upon a gun control position and apply this on a nationwide scale where everyone is deprived of their right to protect themselves. So these are not just, this isn't an academic debate. This is life or death consequences for many, many people.
Right. I mean, that last one also assumes that these suicides committed by firearms wouldn't be committed by some other way if the gun weren't involved, if that person wasn't a gun owner, which is a faulty premise. Both of these articles, it sounds like, were built on faulty premises, which makes their conclusions that it's unsafe to own a gun, that it makes our country less safe, that there are more murders and blah, blah, blah. It makes them entirely inconclusive. It's invalid. And these guys in the New York Times should have known better. James, thanks for debunking this. It was great to talk to you.